What up, y'all? It's your boy Ben here, and we're back with another Pokemon Pocket video for you all. I'm excited to dive into today's video because, as you can see, tournaments are happening for Triumph Light, which means we have a meta report for the new set, and I'm excited. These are all the ones that are finishing up. These are the ones that are still going, and we can see here Top Cut has finished for the Earthsea Day tournament, which has given us a lot of information already. So let's go ahead and just kind of like dive into like what are the best decks that are standing out right now. So first and foremost, we have Dialga here, which is like the Dialga and Arceus package right here. This went undefeated 9-0-1, which is like awesome to see. Like, what's really cool about this build is that you have your Dialga EX, which ramps with the Metallic Turbo into your Arceus EX, which means that you can deal upwards up to 130 damage, y'all. With a Shaman here for its ability Sky Support, as long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active basic Pokemon retreat cost is 1 less, and guess what? Everything here is a basic mon, so that's really sweet to have. And then you have Shaman here as like a little bit of sustain. So you have what gives here is like you have 6 Pokemon. You're really running on having a full bench a lot of the times, which really gives this Arceus EX a lot of room to be dealing 130 damage consistently. And then that just kind of gives you room for all these trainers to like add in here, which is like pretty sweet. And it's really funny because the Mars is an addition that I would not have thought of, but because you're running 4 EXs, oftentimes not your EX is going to go down. So putting your opponent down to 1 card can sometimes work in your favor. The decks out here, you have 2 Giant Capes, 1 Rocky Helmet. That's sustain, boosting this up to 160, boosting this up to 170, getting it out of those reaches of those bigger mons to attack this is pretty clutch in making sure that you can finish your opponent off. Up next is the resurgence of 18 trainers, y'all, and like with ranked mode coming in, I think we're gonna see this a lot in the ladder. So we have Articuno EX, and that is it for your Pokemon. You have Misty as always to like try to get you some free wins right in the beginning. You have the rest of your trainers here. Sabrina, there's an addition of Blue here, but what's special to note is that one, you have Cyrus that gets enabled through Blizzard, so now you're able to attack anything that your opponent throws out there, because Blizzard does that 10 damage to all of the bench Pokemon. But you have Irida. There is now ways to make sure that your Articuno EX has sustained health here. So for 1 turn, if you have double potion and Irida in hand, you can deal or heal anywhere up to 80 damage. So having to go through 2 of these mons where they're already 140 HP, but then also having to deal with 120 worth of healing here, especially if you have a Rocky Helmet or a Cape on this thing as well too. It's doing well. It's doing well. It's topping a couple of smaller tournaments as well too, and like there's for good reason. This was you can get free wins with the Misty, or you can now actually play the long game with this addition of the new water support that we've gotten. And so like water's on the come up, y'all. Water is on the come up. Up next, we have a Leafeon EX and Celebi as a great deck to be playing right now. So one of the cool things about this is that you have sustain with your Giant Cape, your Potion, your Erica. Leafeon being in the active spot really only takes 1 Grass Energy enabled to attack for 70. And then from there, you're just going to continue to power up your Celebi EX up in the back, so that way you can then ramp up. There's actually no need for Superior because Leafeon's giving you an additional energy per turn along with your energy zone, so you're getting 2 energy, so you're good to go here. Now, what can be spicy with this deck, because this is one of the first ones that I like thought of as a pairing, But through you all like let me know that like you can also just run water energy in this deck, and especially because you're getting Leafeon here that allows you to get grass energy and put it on any grass type Pokemon. Celebi itself just says for each energy to attack you, and both of them only need just one grass energy in order for them to be enabled here. So if you add the water energy, you can then add the Irida to this, and so therefore you have even more heals. Now mind you, you can't do Erica and Irida at the same time, but if you're healing 50 40 50 40 20 20 during all of that, these Pokemon can last a lot longer. However, you do have to give up slots for that in order for that to work, and I really do like this core that's here as well too. So let me know, which variation do you like? Do you like just like the water energy and adding Irit into it, or do you like the grass centered for this deck? Up next, making its way, is a non-EX deck that is featuring the fighting that is really powerful here. Sudowoodo, like really making its way to shine out here. So what is this deck all about? Well, you have Rampardos, which is a stage 2 mon, but for 1 energy, you can deal 130 damage, and as long as you don't KO the Pokemon, you don't deal 50 damage to yourself. Now, what's interesting here is that if you have Lucario out, you're dealing 150. You have 2 Lucarios out, you're dealing 170 damage. At that point, taking that 50 damage is not a problem, because those high HP mons where it's like 150 170, you're looking at EX mons, and dealing 50 damage for 2 points is a huge win here. Sudowoodo is a really cool piece to like kind of tie this fighting Lucario centered deck together, is because Sudowoodo is a great lead with seeing things like 18 trainers or like your Celebi decks or your Dialga. There's a lot of like EX mons that are out there. Sudowoodo does for 1 energy 50 damage. It does an additional 30 damage to EX Pokemon. If you get your Lucario out, you're doing 70 damage. So Darkrai is going down into Dialga with Dialga's taking hits, Arceus EX is going down into, so it's just like your Sudowoodo is reaching far, and then your Rampardos can clear up as well, which is pretty sweet. And the best part about this is that your opponent has to go through 3 Pokemon in order for them to win. So I like this style of deck, low to the ground, energy efficient, and while still packing a heavy punch. This deck is really sweet. Up next, we have this Palkia Magnezone deck with a splash of Articuno that is making waves here, which like the fun part about this is that like as we get like new tools and new cards, that doesn't mean that the cards from the previous sets weren't good, and lo and behold, Magnezone is still a great card, yo, and we're gonna see that trend as we talk about a little later, because these cards are still putting up results, and for good reason. You're able to Volt Charge with your Magneton and then self power up with your Magnezone. So because of that, you can then Misty and then put water on your Palkia and your Articuno EX without worrying about supercharging your Magnezones that's able to deal that 110 damage. Because you can add a water energy to the Magnezone or to the Magneton as well, Irida now can heal any of these Pokemon. So again, you have your Palkia EX that could be a wall, and now it's a wall that can heal that it wasn't being able to do before. Irida is really giving not just water decks, but just water energy that can be used a second chance or new life into the game. And in this kind of build where you're hitting for 110, you're hitting for 80 but to all of the bench, 150 but to 20 to all of the bench, like there's a lot that you can do here, and this core is really nice. And speaking of cards that are still making a great results and all that, we have the Darkrai Magnezone deck. Now it has been optimized to run Kangaskhan instead of your Drudgeon here. You have a 1 Rocky Helmet or a Giant Cape. You can either do 2 2 Rocky helmets or just split them. Either one is fine, but the same as always, you get your Kangaskhan, you power that up with 1, you're dealing damage up front, and then you're powering up your Magneton behind, and then your Darkrai is getting that residual damage when you're ready to then sweep out with either your Magnezone or your Darkrai as needed. Pretty powerful stuff, hasn't really changed from there, but it's still doing work against the new cards as well too. So again, you like consistency, you like being able to compete with the new cards. Let's say like you don't have the cards available right now, especially because, like, you know, the cards just came out, you can still rely on this deck and compete and do well. And speaking of still being able to compete and do well, the Eggs Onion deck, your Executor Celebi deck, is still punching up, still taking names, still doing well here. You have your Erica, you have your Professor's Research. In here it has 1 Pokemon Communication, 1 red card, 2 Giant Cape, 1 Rocky Helmet. I'm not a fan of this red card here. I would rather get a Rocky Helmet or another Pokemon Communication to really ensure that we're guaranteeing that we're getting Executor EX, because you want this wall up so that way you can power up the Celebi EX on the back end and then sweep out from there. So I would really use this space for a utility card. But other than that, this is like looking really good, and it's still really strong into the meta. Another deck that has been doing really well this weekend is Gallade EX. And so in this, you're running your Fighting Energy, you have your Hitmonlee to soften things up, you have your Marshadow for that revenge, dealing that 100 damage, and then you clean things up here with Energized Blaze. So for each energy that's attached to your opponent's Pokemon, you're dealing an extra 20. And so with that HP of 170 here, you definitely live an attack and are able to then clap back against them as well. With all of the ramping that's happening, with all of the high energies in your Celebes and your Palkias and like all these other Pokemon, this Gallade EX hits like a truck, and it's really done well. We have your Mars, your Pokeball, your X-Speed, your Pokemon Communication, and your Cyrus here. 2 Cyrus instead of Sabrina's, because you're looking to hit all of those backline with your Hitmonlee to then draw them out with your Cyrus here, potentially clearing them out before they can do too much damage with your Gallade EX. And then last but not least is a spicy build with Arceus EX, really making use of the abilities here that trigger once Arceus EX is in play. For your Heatran, that means that this has a no retreat cost, and for your Crobat, that means you're able to deal 30 to the opponent's active Pokemon. So this is like really cool here. They have a flavor of Dawn, so that way you can power up this Arceus if need be. You can also with Crobat too, because this has a no retreat cost. This now turns into a no retreat cost, so the Dawn here can help you get to 3 energy pretty quickly. 1 leaf here just to like reset if you have to start off with Arceus as your beginning, and then the rest is as follows with your Pokeball, your Giant Capes. Heatran is really good. It forces the opponent to think about whether or not they want to attack, because going from 40 to 80, 120 is a lot of damage for an opponent to take. And then even with your Crobat here, in 1 turn you're dealing 80 damage, or just even doing that on the bench. Between Heatran dealing for 80, you can deal 110 damage in 1 turn, or you can deal up to 160 damage between Crobat and Arceus. So pretty good overall. So let me know what y'all think, y'all, about the decks that are coming out from this weekend across all of the tournaments. I'm loving the creativity of the new cards. I love the creativity of the new set as it brings, and so I'm just continuing to see like what's going to come out on top. What kind of meta, once the things and the dust all settles, will we see that will become a staple? It's really feeling like Arceus has been well designed and is looking like it's here to stay, but gamers will game, and so we'll continue to keep an eye on it. As always, y'all, if you like the content, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe, and click the notification bell button. Until the next one, y'all, peace.